Hey guys, welcome to this track guide in the Dallara F3 at Red Bull Ring. I'll be taking you for a little guide of the track today with the fixed setup, and yeah, let's get into it. So now we're going on to the start line at Phillip Island, and it's quite a high-speed track, and we want to be quite smooth with our steering inputs, moving the car back to the left-hand side of the straight. So we're just going to slowly move over. No need to kind of jink over really aggressively, just smoothly so we're not scoring any speed. And make sure we're using all the track here. Even though it's not really much of a corner in this car, it's easy flat in the Dallara F3, even on cold tyres with the high downforce package. But you do want to use the full track here, as we'll see for turn 2. It's really important for your setup here and be able to do this consistently and make sure you're not making mistakes and if you're following and things like that. So getting over to the left-hand side of the track using all the entry curb, and again, smooth with our input here, smooth on our way into the inside white line to the apex. And what we're going to do is we want to try and reach the white line after the curb steps up, because here the curb gets a lot taller. That's kind of our reference. So the second part of the curb where it's steeper is where we want to be meeting the inside white line. If you go in too early, you end up too wide and it'll kind of hurt your run to turn 2. So it's really important that we get this right. As you can see, I'm on the white line quite far into the corner. You know, if you're in a GT car, you'd be all the way out on the exit already. But with the amount of downforce you have in this car, we can keep it fully right, which is going to help us set up for turn 2. So back to the white line. This is not always going to be possible. Again, it depends on how well you set up turn 1. But on a really good lap like this, in good conditions, you can get it back to the right-hand side of the track, preferably to the white line. You don't have to, but that's ideal. And then we want to brake in a straight line here. And you can see from my brake input in the bottom left that it's pretty soft. It's quite a high-speed corner here. We do end up in third gear, but quite high up in the rev range. It's really important not to upset the car. Like I said, we've done really good preparation getting it right. So we're just going to turn in left a little bit and settle the car relatively straight, kind of on a diagonal, but we're going to do our turning before we brake. Then we're going to brake and bleed out quite progressively here. It's a long braking zone, but not a heavy one. If you brake heavily, you'll lock up and upset the car. So it's important to look after the aero platform we have here and use the downforce. So a really smooth, not super heavy brake. Just kind of dab on the brake and then hold it. And we want to keep the car turning in on the brake. Down to third gear, use the gear changes to help turn the car. And don't really think too much about where you're hitting the inside white line here. It's not really important. We need to look quite far around the corner here. We need to look all the way up until here, because that's where our minimum speed is, where we pick up the throttle and is kind of our true apex. So as you can see, it's quite far around from where we are here. So we're braking a straight line. We're just looking around to the point, the slowest point in the corner. We feel like we can get the car turned properly. Okay, then we're going to pick up the throttle. And when we do on this corner, we have to do it really quickly. We can't slowly step the throttle. If you do that, you'll get a lot of understeer and you'll end up on the grass in the exit, or you'll have to lift out. So you can see here, when I pick up the throttle, it's quite an aggressive initial hit. And really trying to feel for that 100% and get it all the way down. A really important exit here. Huge amounts of time at this corner. Easy 2 or 3 tenths between a good lap and a bad lap. And then we just got to be, again, trying to carry the speed and hold on to the car and using the exit. And you can use that exit curb. It doesn't really make much of a difference. Okay, so turn 3 is not really a corner, but again, it's important, like turn 1, to get our positioning right. We don't want to be all the way on the right. We want to be on the left. Take the shortest line through this corner. And so that we're on the white line, parallel with the white line for braking for Honda, the hairpin. Okay, so we're braking at about 120 meters here. The reference is just gauged based on confidence between the 150 and the 100 board. And we want to try and use and get over early. You don't want to do it mid-braking zone because that upsets the car a lot. So make sure you get over the entry curve here so that we can widen the track as much as possible. And this is a much heavier brake hit than turn 2, holding the brake pressure down to second gear. It's really important at this corner that we're not in too early. If you meet the white line about this far around and really just turn in early, then you probably hit the brakes too early and you've slowed the car down too much. And that's kind of your reference there of should I be braking it later or not, is, you know, whether or not, if you can't make the inside white line, then you need to brake a bit earlier. And if you find yourself turning in really early and struggling to get on the throttle on the exit, then you probably need to brake a little bit later. Okay, here now, just pretty standard hairpin stuff. We're just holding a little bit of brake pressure here to keep the weight on the front, which will help us turn. And then we apply a bit of steering lock and aggressive throttle hit again. You can use this green on the exit, and on a quick lap, you probably be pushed out to this green AstroTurf. Just be careful because it drops away into gravel and it can give you an off track and will definitely slow you down. So it's important here that if you're going to run wide earlier and use this green bit as well as the exit curb. Okay, now we're coming up to Siberia, probably, in my opinion, the most difficult corner on the track. No real apex here, very hard. It's a blind entry, basically, to where the middle and exit of the corner is, and it also is worth a lot of lap time on the exit up the hill. So we get over to the right-hand side, parallel to the white line here. Now, what you don't want to do here is brake super late and go chasing time that way and end up high on the right-hand side near the gravel trap, because you'll never, ever make it into the camber. And there's quite a lot of camber at this corner, more than you think. So generally, my marker is kind of, it's hard to be exact, but it's about 2/3 width of the track you want to use here for most of the corner on the entry. And you can see the rubber line where the rubber is. That's kind of where you want to be on this part of the track. You don't want to stay all the way out on the right hand side and then brake late and turn in, because you'll just never make it, or you have to slow the car down too much. So in here, we're in 4th gear and we're just going to brake softly. Brake softly and carefully. Again, it's one of those corners where we don't really want to stop the car too much. We just want to use the aero. And when we use the aero, we don't want to brake super abruptly and aggressively. We just want to be smooth with our input, kind of dab the brake a bit to help the car turn in and still carry some good speed down to 3rd gear as well, which will help the nose. Now you can see as I go around this corner, I don't actually hit a true apex, and this is, you know, the same I feel in real life at this corner. You don't need to hit an apex here, and especially in an aero car like this. I think in the GD3 or something, you do want to get it tight. But in this car, it's way more important to use the downforce and roll the speed. And if you are tight early, so let's say you brake a bit harder or you turn a bit early and you reach the white line here, you will not have opened the track up enough for your exit. And if you reach it here, it usually means you've braked a bit too much. So there's a real balance here between, you obviously don't want to be too wide of the apex, but you probably don't want to be all over it and all over the inside curb. So you want to be near it. Let's say here I'm about half a car away, 2 tires with widths away. You know, like I said, you can hit the apex, but it's one of those ones where it's slightly better to roll a bit more speed in, just come out of that brake. If you look at my brake trace in the bottom left, it's really important to just bleed out the brakes, keep keep the car turning in on the brake, but don't really slow it down too much and roll a lot of speed. And then again, a lot like turn 2, you really need to have a quick throttle pickup here. If you go 10, 20, 30% slowly, you'll just understeer. You have to get on it quite quickly to 70, 80% to get the car going, and also to make sure we don't just understeer off. Again, using all the exit curb, you can even dip a wheel on the gravel. Sometimes I find it's better in a race if you're over pushing. You will get off track, but if you're over pushing a bit, the exit, sometimes it's better to pick up the throttle a bit early and lose a bit of speed. In the gravel, it actually kind of evens out or even helps you a bit up the hill if you're in a tow or something. So you can definitely push this exit here, and it's so important, the exit out this corner. So now we got a few corners here that aren't really corners in this car. So we're just going to be smooth and take the line of least resistance over to the right-hand side here. And again, super important to get our positioning right. No real braking markers. We've got a blind corner coming up. Not many references. The most important thing we need to do here is get all the way to the right-hand side of the track, next to the white line here. And my kind of first reference point for where I'm looking is this part of the curb coming up over here. And again, it's a bit like turn 1 where the curb steps up, and you'll see it in a second, but we're looking at that point there. It's this very difficult corner, Lukey Heights, to kind of gauge our entry speed. But the main thing is here, we hold 5th gear, don't change up into 6th, hold 5th, and just, we don't really want to be braking because it'll slow the car down too much. So when you want to start turning in to the corner, we need to start lifting out. As we're applying the steering lock, as you can see here. So I turn in, we're just about flat, and then just as I feel like the car needs a little bit more front grip, we're lifting out. That's on the fixed setup, it will be quite stable. So it will be a case of, okay, I'm understeering a bit here, and now I need a bit more help turning in, I'm going to lift out. So lift out, and you can see the curb steps up here. But we want to reach the white line, inside curb. That's always the aim at this corner. If you missed it, you're going to take extra track, and it's going to hurt you later on. You can even be all over the inside curb here. The important thing is that we just make the inside of the track from the outside, and it's all about carrying speed because there's no exit for this corner. It's all about just carry as much speed in as we can and holding that minimum speed up. Okay, so I've quite an early throttle pickup on this lap, which is going to push us quite far right. Now, this is a super tricky corner. This is MG. It's a banked hairpin with a downhill braking zone where it's really easy to lock the brakes. So if you're not feeling super comfortable here, I would recommend, especially if you're new to the circuit, not pushing your exit of Lukey Heights, the previous corner, as much as this. I'd recommend probably waiting to get on throttle and making it so you've got the car on the white line with the 50-meter board. And on this lap, perhaps I'm a little bit further right than is ideal, but it's one of those things where you can carry more speed through Lukey Heights, and it's a trade-off for your entry for MG. So just be aware of that. It does change from lap to lap. So carry a lot of speed through here. And you can see if you are out of position, you still want to get and try and use all the track on the entry to MG. You don't want to take this entry curve on the left at all. It'll upset the car on the braking, possibly spin you out. So as close to the curve as possible, but don't take it. And try and be as straight as possible. Even though I was coming from the angle, you can see my steering. I try to straighten up here so I can hit good pressure on the brakes down the hill. Super unstable, like I said, so just build into that and be careful. Be careful, and you have to be dead straight on the steering, otherwise you'll get punished. Okay, so now you can see as we're rolling into this camber, it's quite a bit of banking here on the inside. We're coming out of the brake, and it's one of those corners where if you don't bleed out of the brakes quite quickly as you're turning in, you will lock your fronts and you'll understeer quite badly. So be really, really aware of that. And it's also a bit of a trap here. People go in too hard. People they slow down too much because it's a slow corner, yes, but it's important more than anything to roll a bit of speed through this through MG, through the banking. It's really important to carry a bit of speed in and roll a bit of speed through this corner, especially in a narrow car like the F3. And ideally, because we're going to be flat out pretty much out of here all the way until turn 2, it's super, super important that we use all the track on the right and we take all of this curb so we can widen up our exit for, like I said, we're going to be flat out for, at least 20 seconds now. Okay, so as you can see, it's quite a quick throttle pickup like everywhere else with this car. And you need to wind off the steering quite quickly because it will snap here, and then we're all out of sorts for the rest of the straight. So it's super important. Even though we want to roll a little bit of speed in here, it's super important that our exit is really clean, and we do have a quick throttle pickup. And if you do feel like the rear is going to go, just move the car left a bit. Like, take a bit of steering out, use a bit of space on the left-hand side of the track. You can be half car width wide on the left here. Maybe you pay later on, you have to lift out a little bit later, but it's better than having a snap straight away. So you can always make the adjustment there. But you need to be able to pick up the throttle early enough so you're forced at least past this crease you can see in the middle of the road. If you're over here on the right-hand side of the track, you haven't picked up the throttle early enough, you haven't carried enough speed into MG. And if the next two corners, the next two left-handers, or specifically the next corner is too easy, it means you haven't pushed MG enough, which is what makes it super tricky and such an important corner. So, like I said, we've got to use, again, it's going to vary lap to lap, but roughly 2/3 of the track, we want the car going past this middle crease of the track. And then you can work a little bit to get it right before this left-hander, but you haven't really got that much time. So get a little bit right, but main thing is that we get the car left and that we get up to the white line on the left-hand side. And then super smooth. You're going to be fighting oversteer through here. Just super smooth with the steering, managing it. If you find you're struggling with traction, just short shift and be super smooth on the exit here. Okay, so use all the track here. Be forced to use all the track. Like I said, we're fighting oversteer as soon as we come out of MG on with the traction on the rear tires as well. We're rear limited, so just being super smooth, and we're using as much track as we can here just to open it up. And we're going to be forced out to the edge of the track through the speed we've carried out of MG and that early throttle pickup. Then here, again, not really much of a corner in this car, but still worth a bit of time, especially in the race following and when it comes to overtaking and defending. Just going from the white line on the inside to the white line white line on the outside on the entry to the inside, and just using the camber. And there is quite a bit of it here. It is coming down nicely into that camber and using all the track on the exit. And we're going to cross the line, and that is a lap of Phillip Island in the Dallara 3. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you learned something. Subscribe to the Coach Dev Academy YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.